Chapter 4. Chapter 4, I love the holiday times. Those are, and probably will forever remain my favorite times of the year. It's just what represents the birth of Christ. In Romania, we really sang a lot of carolings and in church, during church services, but we did have the caroling times all through the night after church. And before we were involved in church time, in church choir, my brother Alin and Sergiu, we would go as a group when we were younger. We would go from door to door, and man, there's a lot of fun memories during that time. And I'm trying not to laugh because Sergiu just made us crack up. He was so funny. Then later on, when we became teenagers and we got ourselves involved in the choir in the church, then we end up caroling together with the choir, the church choir. And those are some really wonderful times. And that's when, you're a teenager and the crushes and the flirting time starts and all that stuff that kind of gives butterflies to every boy and girl during that particular time. And so yes, they're wonderful, wonderful, wonderful times. Describes in details kind of just roles and what happened during holidays in Romania, kind of traditionally. From a tradition point of view, you'll be able to understand that. And then kind of the roles. Sergiu was always, the roles of us that we had in the family, Sergiu was always the one that went into those forever long lines that, was standing up for either milk or bread or butter or sugar or anything you can think of. He was the person that would go shopping, and of course my mom was the one that cooked a lot, and she bossed us around like crazy. Bossed us around. And she would always, you go do that, you go do that, and you go do that. But being the mother of 12 children, she had to delegate work. There's no way she could do that all by herself. I always took care of the kids. I took care of the dirty laundry. I took care of the washing, the dishes. I took care of anything you can think of. Getting up with the babies in the middle of the night. Cleaning, cooking. I hated baking. Alin did a wonderful job with that. And I think it has to do with the fact that I don't really like sugary things, especially desserts, heavy creams and things like that. It just turns my stomach. I don't like that. Alin, on the other hand, can eat that breakfast, lunch, and dinner. So it kind of makes sense that Alin will love to bake and I would not. I liked cooking. I didn't love it. I liked it, and but I wanted to make sure that I didn't show the fact that I liked it, because otherwise my mom would have totally 100% delegated that responsibility on my shoulder, and I already had enough responsibilities. I did not want any more responsibilities on my shoulder. Then it shows you a little bit about my father, and just a little bit, my mom keeping the little pieces of me that we did get for him. At the time, that frustrated me, and the thought of it's not fair came into my mind a lot. I was a child. I did not understand a lot of things. Growing up and looking back, my father was the main provider. We lived because he worked, and the money that he brought kept the family going. So he had to keep going himself. He had to be strong in the body, and I understand that now, but at the time I did not understand that. And since I wrote this book, since I finished this book, I understand some things far better and far deeper, and I don't have some of the emotions that I had even when I wrote the book. And definitely I don't have some of the emotions that I had when I went through the events that I did written in the book. So a lot changed, but at the time, I was not necessarily that happy. And you can see also after that it talks about the Jews, the escaping from Russia and the Bible smuggling. So there was a lot of political turmoil too, and there was Jews escaping from Romania, but there wasn't as big of a population as they were in Russia. So there was a turmoil in the country, there was a turmoil in the countries around, and there was an inner turmoil within myself because I was at the teenage stage, which, trust me, you go through turmoil no matter what. So because of that, you're going to start seeing questions that I had full of probably confusion, frustration, a little bit of rebellion. I had the rebellion. I was the kind of child that kind of mumbled under her breath, and not in front of my parents, because I got it big time if I did that, especially from my mom. So when she grabbed, you know, a handful of your hair, yowza, yowza. So I grumbled, but not in front of them. I understand how frustrating that is now that I'm a parent and watching my children do that at some time, and I understand, I see it a little bit different, but at the time I did not. So yes, there are some questions that I do have. I look back and some things, you know, make me laugh, and just the way I used to think. And but these are facts. So good, bad, however they're facts. Another thing is to portray, I guess, my character back then. I'm not sure that changed much now. I just hope there's a little bit more wisdom than back then. Is I really was a firecracker. And very opinionated, and I thought that I really understood the world and how it went about, and I was the only gifted person in the world that had that revelation, and everybody around me had to totally listen to me. That came with the fact that I was the oldest of 12 kids, 12 brothers and sisters, and I was used to giving a command and being obeyed. So I kind of confuse that sometimes with my parents, because I would try to do that with my parents, and instead of, you know, back receiving the obedience that I was used to, I would receive a smack or more than that. So that kind of confused me. I'm like, hey, wait, oh, they're my parents, I can't do that with them. So but I remember there was this lady, she was big time pregnant, she was married to an older gentleman who was called an intellectual, which means he didn't have, you know, a job, and he just studied all the time. Very intelligent man. So she was younger, much younger, pregnant with her first or second child, I can't remember quite right, but she would walk like 50, you know, minutes from their house to a store and buy groceries, and really heavy kind of groceries, and have to walk back, and she would stop at our place for like, before she had to head back, just to rest a little bit. And at one point her husband was there with her and just kind of putting her down a lot and not really taking her side, and I just stood up for her and took her side, and I kind of tried to explain to him just how wrong he was in the way he was behaving, you know, towards his wife, and how he was treating his wife. And she was a very sweet, quiet lady, not at all like me. I'm not sure about the sweetness part, but the quiet part definitely. I talk, which can get me in trouble. So I remember the husband was so shocked and looked at my dad like, do you see the rebellion in your daughter, and this is unacceptable, you have to do something about it. That is kind of another piece that I have not put in the book that I just remember about, portraying the firecracker personality that I had, and still have a piece of it right now. It's just with age you don't have as much energy, so the firecrackers kind of dim a little bit. Well, I hope you enjoyed chapter 4. We will see you back with chapter 5. Bye-bye.